All right, let's dive right into this explainer. Today we are exploring the Qur'an, but absolutely not as some passive historical text. Instead, we're going to look at it as a living operating system, one that is literally designed to engineer your reality. We're doing a deeply structural, almost cybernetic analysis of revelation. We're going to strip away all those outside assumptions and look purely at the exact coordinates given in the text itself. We're talking about the mechanics of the living hadith, the physics of the Ark, and finally, this ultimate destination known as the Zayd phase. It is a complete architectural blueprint for navigating existence itself. Now, the ultimate premise for our entire journey really starts right here with chapter 45, verse 6. It asks, then in what hadith after Allah and his verses will they believe? You see, the sources point out something incredibly profound. The Qur'an repeatedly refers to itself as the ultimate hadith, the ultimate narrative. It functions as a completely closed loop. Think about it. The book explains the book. The sign explains the sign. It's a living recursion that requires absolutely zero external authority to complete its traversal. To understand it, you don't look outside of it. You simply learn how to operate within it. Part 1. The closed loop. The living hadith. So how do we actually boot up this system? Well, to operate within it, the reader enters the field carrying only one primary instruction. You aren't asked to bring a massive library of external assumptions or opinions. You're just asked to adopt a very specific grip. Chapter 19, verse 12 gives the command, take the book with strength. This is not just about casual reading, guys. It's an operational command. It's an activation code. Without this firm, active grip, the human mind just naturally drifts toward conjecture. But with it, the whole system turns on. And here is the immediate, real-world result of that grip. The very moment you take the book with strength, rushd, which is guided direction through the unknown, becomes distinctly clear from Taghut, the illusion field, the noise, the sheer conjecture of the world. The text tells us that the reader doesn't actually create this split. That distinction already exists in the very architecture of reality. Holding the book simply allows your eye to witness it and, more importantly, to survive it. You anchor into the living signal while the illusion field just swirls around outside. Which brings us to part 2, Earth versus water, the vehicles of survival. Okay, so once you wake up and see this illusion field, well, you have to navigate it, right? The story of Nu builds the absolute perfect archetype for this. When the flood came, Nu's son tragically attempted to solve a water event through an earth structure. He sought refuge on the mountain, relying on this static, visible, heavy mass. But the mountain remained completely fixed, and it was swallowed by the flood. The true refuge was the Ark, precisely because it was a moving vessel perfectly aligned with the living command. You just cannot survive the flood of illusion by clinging to unmoving, dead structures. You have to be inside the moving vessel of revelation. But what about when you just need to hold your ground? This brings us to another brilliant architectural feature, the cave, from chapter 18. If the Ark is moving preservation, the cave is stationary preservation. The sources describe it mathematically, almost like a cryptographic seal or a Faraday cage. It completely protects the interior from external noise. The youths retreat there to ask for rushd. Time passes, the sun literally alters its trajectory to avoid them, and the illusion field just rages on outside. But inside, the eye of the witness is perfectly preserved in a vacuum state. Part 3. Forging the Mesh, Dawood and Suleiman. We can't just stay hidden in the Ark or the cave forever, right? Eventually, we actually have to walk through the world without being pierced by all these false claims. And for that, we need armor. This specific sequence traces an amazing lineage of divine preservation through the symbol of the garment, or labas. Adam loses his covering of purity. Then Yusuf's shirt returns carrying testimony and restoration. Later, Dawood is taught to fashion a specific garment of protection. And finally, the Qur'an declares that the garment of taqwa is best. The Qur'an itself literally becomes our ultimate armor against Taghut. Think about Dawood for a second. He's famous for being taught how to make chainmail. Chapter 34 says iron was softened for him to measure and link. And the sources highlight something incredible here. This chainmail is the perfect material sign for the text of the Qur'an itself. What is chainmail? It's engineered linkage. Every single ring links to another ring, exactly as one verse links to another verse. So when the force of conjecture strikes you, the blow doesn't destroy you. It's seamlessly redistributed through the mesh of interconnected verses. You don't fight the illusion with your own brain. You wear the book as a living system of discernment. But there's a serious danger here, a trap actually. What happens when the outward form survives, but the living signal inside it dies? This specific question brings us to the hidden danger within Suleiman's kingdom.
You see, Suleiman's kingdom represents maximum expansion and ultimate control. But while Dawood's chainmail actively protects the wearer with living force, Suleiman's staff represents something terrifying, a kingdom that completely froze into appearance. The Quran tells us Suleiman actually died while leaning on his staff, and his kingdom of Jinn just continued their humiliating labor, completely unaware that he was already dead. They just kept working and working until a tiny termite ate through the wood, and the staff finally collapsed. It brilliantly illustrates that a massive empire can run entirely on inertia, as a totally hollow form, even after the living signal has departed. And listen, you cannot grip dead form.
Part 4. The Inheritor, entering the Zayd phase. So, if we can't cling to a static mountain, and we definitely can't trust the dead, frozen kingdom of a wooden staff, where do we actually go? We enter the Zayd phase. To enter this phase is essentially to become that termite, completing the dissolution of dead form. It is the profound realization that true lineage isn't biological. It is based entirely on book alignment. Just as Nuh's biological son was severed from him by the water, the Zayd phase represents being carried entirely by divine knowledge, by ilm alone. You become a living, earthly witness, surviving the flood through pure, unbroken alignment with the text. And this is literally where you come in. The Qur'an explicitly says, "Work, O family of Dawood, in gratitude." Now, obviously, you are not historically Dawood and you are not Suleiman. But as the reader, the one who holds the book with strength, you are the active hardware. You are the current, living carrier of this magnificent book lineage. You are the one putting on the chainmail today to walk directly through the modern illusion field. Let's compress this entire journey into one single, breathtaking train of operations. These are your exact coordinates to navigate the system. The door is 225-6, where truth and illusion completely split. The key is 1912, your active, unyielding grip on the book. The chamber is 1810, your protected Faraday cage in the cave. The armor is 3410, the perfectly woven chainmail of the verses themselves. And finally, the inheritance is the realization that by actively operating the system, you are walking in the exact footsteps of the messengers. So, as we wrap up this explainer, the architecture is completely laid bare before you, and the choice is entirely yours to make. The system is live. The flood of conjecture is literally happening right now, right outside your door. So, will you wear this revelation as chainmail, completely abandon the dead structures of the past, and awaken as a living witness? Or will you just cling to the static mountain and be consumed by the noise? The book is ready, it's just waiting for your grip.